just put your hand over your eyes and say after me, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And if you put your hand over your ears and I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And now put your hands over your heart and just extend your arms out. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that a changed condition can only happen to a changed individual. A changed condition, an improved marriage, improved finances, improved relationships with your adult children. That can only happen to a changed individual. You know, we call this service our worship service sometimes. And sometimes we call this service our celebration service. But what we really ought to be calling it is our Change Me service. We should be saying, oh yeah, I'm going to go over to West Sacramento, that little church over there, and I'm going to 9 o'clock. I'm going to the Change Me 9 o'clock. I'm going to go to the Change Me 11 o'clock service. Because that's what we want to do. You know, the greatest way you can glorify God, the greatest way you can actually worship is to begin to change your thinking and change your life so that you can be who you were sent here to be. You can step into that expanded part of yourself that will all not only bless you and your family, but will bless the whole world when you're there. We spend so much time trying to fix other people, trying to fix Bill or Maria or Shelley or whoever. We're just trying to fix them. Or we're trying to fix Social Security. Or we're trying to fix our doctor into saying we need to do something different than what he or she said that would be better for our health. Or we're trying to fix our ex. Or we're trying to fix our kids. When we know that the only person we can change is us. The only person you can change is you. You know, I love it when foundations, about halfway through foundations, I often hear a comment that goes like this. You know, my husband is treating me so much better. He is so much nicer to me. People at work are so much more pleasant to be around. Because what we know is that when we change ourselves, they're so busy changing themselves in that foundation process that they're not manipulating anybody. They're not trying to control anybody else. They're not trying to fix anybody else's life to make them better. And when we stay in our own backyard, when we just pay attention to ourselves, and we become more loving, we send that love out, and it's got to come back to us. A changed condition can only happen to a changed individual. Everyone needs to change one thing in their life right now in order to change conditions in their life. Every single person in this room, including me, needs to change one thing about myself in order to have a happier life. Now, I don't know what that one thing is for you. And I look at myself and I look in the mirror and I think, well, one thing? What are you, nuts? It's way more than one thing. But I'm talking about that one thing you know you need to change. Just that one thing. I don't know what it is for you. Only you know what it is for you. But deep down somewhere you know what it is for you. Maybe you've had it buried for a while. Or maybe not. Maybe you've even talked to a friend about it for a while. But it hasn't changed. You've lost focus. On your way to changing that one thing, stuff comes up. And there's a shiny thing over here and a shiny thing over there and a new diet out there and something else behind it. There's something else out there. And so we lose focus. And when we lose focus, then we come to believe we've got evidence now. Hey, it's just how life is. This is just what it's like in my office. This is just what it's like with my spouse. This is just what it's like with my bank account. It's just what it's like. Well, it's not just what it's like. There's a way. Maybe for you, what it is there's a habit that you've had for a while that needs to be changed. Maybe it's a defense mechanism that you learned as a kid that you just keep dragging around year after year after year after year that you know is not helping you anymore. It served you as a little person who was in a house of hell, but you're not there anymore. But you keep dragging this defense mechanism around. You know, maybe you don't trust and you need to go to Anita's workshop. Maybe you don't know how to speak up for yourself, and so you're always just swallowing it. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's not something that you need to get rid of, but something you need to really latch onto and do. It's the one thing you know you need to do in order to be happy, clearly happy. Maybe for you, it's getting out of debt, because you know if you have a mountain of debt, you cannot have affluence. You need to work on the debt, bring it down. Maybe that's the one thing that you need to do in this life. Maybe the one thing you need to do is to set a goal around a project. That's the one thing you need to do. I need to set a goal around a project, and then I need to keep on doing it. I can't lose focus. That goal is going to have to be important to me. It's going to have to remain the same thing, the main thing. And if you could push a magic button and you knew in 6 to 12 months that would be done, the one thing would be over. If you could do that, you'd push that magic button right now. Maybe for you, what it is looking at your relationship, and some of them need to be restored and could be restored. That's the one thing you need to do. You need to make that one phone call to begin the restoration of a relationship. Maybe that's what you need to do, the one thing. Maybe the one thing you need to do is to complete a relationship and make it completely complete. Maybe that's what the one thing you need to do. And if you could push a button and you knew that there would be no shrapnel flying, no emotional warring going on, you would push that button, and in 6 to 12 months, that relationship would be complete in love. Maybe that's what you need to do. I don't know. I have no idea what the one thing you need to do is. But I do know this. There is one thing and help for us. I'm going to work today with a biblical passage that I happen to love. I may have worked with it before. It's from the book of Nehemiah. And, it's Jewish wisdom that comes from what some people call the Old Testament. Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah is a small book, and what I want to concentrate today is a teeny-weeny little passage in that book. But let me start by telling you a little bit about Nehemiah. His reign was in 440 BC. He was a slave. He was a cup holder to the king. You know, a cup holder to the king is kind of like what we see as a sommelier today. If you go to a fancy restaurant, a guy comes out, he's got a little cup around his neck, and he pours a little bit. And he pairs the wine, and that's what Nehemiah's job was. If they were serving elk that day, he got a good wine for the elk. And he always tasted it first to make sure the king wasn't going to be poisoned. That was mostly what his job was. And so not only was Nehemiah the cup holder to the king, but he was loved by the king. He was trusted by the king. He was actually a friend of the king. Now, he was also a slave, and nobody thought any different. Although he was held in high esteem, he was a slave. Well, one day, Nehemiah is talking to a friend of his who had just come back from his master's place in Jerusalem, in Jerusalem. And he told Nehemiah, "It is a mess. It is a mess over there. Our people are being beaten up. They're being stolen. The wall around Jerusalem has been taken down in most places, and only half high in other places. And marauders are coming in, and they just take what they want from the people. They take their money. They take their food. They take their tools. Whatever they want, they just go in and take." He said, "It's a mess." Broke my heart. And as he began to continue to tell Nehemiah, Nehemiah's heart became broken himself. And so he did what you and I do when our heart is broken. He prayed a positive prayer, an affirmative prayer. He said, "Great and awesome God, protect my people and tell me what is mine to do next. Great and awesome God, protect my people and tell me what mine is to do next. And so as he continued to pray that prayer, and he listened for the answer, what happened was it came to him that he needed to go to Jerusalem. But, slaves don't get vacations. They don't get sabbaticals. So he's worried about this, but it's time to go and serve the king. So he goes to serve the king, and the king, because he's so attached to Nehemiah, sees how upset he is, and how distracted he is. And he says, Nehemiah, what is wrong? And Nehemiah says to him, he tells him the story about what's happening in Jerusalem. He said, and I want to go there. And the king says, not only will I let you go there, but you can not only go there, I'm going to make you the governor of Judea, which by doing that makes you the mayor of Jerusalem. And I'm going to give you building materials to rebuild the city. But remember, you're a slave. So you have to come back. So Nehemiah sets off, and he goes there, and he spends the first night and the first day in Jerusalem just walking around and seeing what a terrible, terrible mess it is. And not only does he see what a terrible mess it is, and he begins to know he has to do something, he also sees the people and how complacent they've become and how much it is, this is just what it's like. If you live here, this is just what it's like. Now remember, if you don't deal with your one thing, I don't know what your one thing is, but I've been talking long enough now, you know what your one thing is. If you don't deal with your one thing, you become complacent, and that's just how it is. That's just what life is like here. Just how my family is. Just how my office is. Well, he prayed and he looked and he saw. Now, he saw that an infrastructure needed to be made. He saw that leaders needed to be developed. He saw that an economy needed to be restored. And he saw the wall needed to be rebuilt. And he said, I have to choose one thing. The one thing for Nehemiah was, I've got to rebuild this wall. How am I going to do this with such complacent people? And so he did what you and I need to do to ourselves. And that is, he cast a vision to the people. Got them all together. He said, I'm the mayor now. Better come. And he cast a vision that was so compelling that people wanted to get on board. You and I must cast a vision to our consciousness and our subconsciousness that is so compelling that what life can be like after the one thing is dealt with, that we want to participate in it, that we're moved to commit to it. And that's what he did, and he got people engaged. And so they began to work on the wall. And he had about 100 guys join him at first. And then as the wall began to go up, other people began to see, and they began to get engaged. Don't miss this teaching point. When you have a little bit of success, notice it, because it will give you energy. When all the naysayers are, what are you doing? When all they're up, and the committee, it will give you energy to move into it in a deeper way and to stay strong. Well, he's working on it, and then there's a guy named Sanballat who comes along. Sanballat is the head of the marauders. He's the head of the bad guys, and that's why he has that name, Sanballat. And so he goes in, and he starts attacking the world. No. First he goes in, and he infiltrates it, and he starts sending rumors about it. You know, who's this guy, Who's this guy, Nehemiah? This is crazy. Don't do this. Who do you think you are? Blah, 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 blah. Sound familiar? Of course. It's because what we do ourselves. That didn't work. And so then he sent fighters in to do a little skirmishes on the wall, the people on the wall. And Sanballat had to take half the guys off the wall and make them sentries, and he gave half the guys, they kept building the wall. So it didn't work. And Sanballat says, okay, well, here's what we're going to do now. What we're going to do now is we're going to invite Nehemiah to lunch, because I'm going to change his mind. Don't miss this. Don't miss this. We have people who are friends of ours who will invite us to lunch and very sweetly try and get us to shift what we're doing, okay? So what happens, and this is the whole point of this sermon, is this 3 words I'm going to tell you in a minute. Nehemiah's up on the wall, he's building, he's on a ladder, and so one of Sanballat's guys comes along with a lunch invitation. And so he goes to Nehemiah and he says, Nehemiah, I've got a letter here, you need to read this. And Nehemiah says this, and this is from the Bible. I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Say that with me. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Say it again. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. One more time. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Somebody says, you know what? Let's just go have a drink. I'm not drinking. You need to say, I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Look, I baked this cake just for you. And it's gluten-free, and it's flour-free, and it's sugar-free, and it's just free. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. If you're married, and you can't help it, there's some little chemistry by the new person in the office, and you talk to them at the cooler and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, we'll go out for, what would that hurt? We're going to go out for coffee. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. See, some of us need to sit at the bed of our children at night while they're sleeping and just whisper, I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down. I'm not going to get so hooked up in television. I'm not going to get so hooked up into my hobby. I'm not going to get so hooked up in spending money that would be better spent in our family stuff, because I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. This is a powerful, this little bitty teaching. If we can keep this firm before us as we go through our one thing. Now look, if you're still sitting there, I hope not, but if you're still sitting there and you think, I don't have one thing, or I don't know what my one thing is, I don't know, see a practitioner. And if you get done with your practitioner session and you still don't know what your one thing is, they're going to send you to me. So I think you ought to find that. It's a powerful little teaching that will enable us to do whatever it is that we need to do. I have a guy in this church who is a singer. Now, I've been off for a month. Almost thought I was going to be off this morning when we started, but I'm back. He's doing a great work, and he will not come down. And he needed a recommendation from me. And I just couldn't get to it. I was doing, this month I only did stuff that somebody was going to die if I didn't do it. And God bless him. Every week in my email, Reverend Georgia, need this. Why? Because he knew he was doing a great work, and he could not come down. Each one of us are sent here for one purpose, and that is to show God's love, to represent Spirit on the planet. And if we don't take care of the one thing, we're going to get sidetracked. And we can't do that which we have come here to do. In religious science talk, from the Jews we get, I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. In religious science talk, that's called kingdom consciousness. And what that means is we have a direct connection to the universe. And when we stay connected to the universe, it will support us. Now, there's a group of people who are doing a great work right now. And I'm going to invite Reverend Sarah Nichols, to come up and talk to those people.
Thank you, Reverend Georgia. When a child leaves home, we often acknowledge this transition with a ritual of graduation or a going away party, but we generally don't acknowledge the major transition that we go through from primary caregiver to parent from afar. Some of you may have children leaving home this year. Some of you may have had them leave years ago, and for some of you, it may be yet to come. And I invite you to participate in this ritual this morning in whatever way you wish. You may stand, you may sit, you may affirm the words I speak, or you may simply remain silent. The intention that I set today is that for every single person in this room, watching on the web or in the world, if you have pain in your heart due to your child's absence, that it be completely healed if you're willing to accept it. So if you think this ritual applies to you, stand if you are able now and put your hand over your heart. And now I ask you to just acknowledge all the gifts that have been given to this child. All the talks, all the sleepless nights, the meals, the disagreements, and the reconciliations, all the life that has gone on between you and this child. And now please turn and face west, which is that way. Welcome west, the direction of completion, of harvesting the childhood that is now completed. Also the direction of feelings. We are familiar with your watery ways because we are watery beings. And as we release our children, the waterworks begin to flow. And we feel a mixture of sadness and joy. Let our feelings flow unimpeded and with awareness. Let us be sad when we're sad and glad when we're glad. Let us regularly explore our mind and soul, not so much for answers as for questions. And let your way of intuitive certainty move in us for good. Thank you, West. And repeat after me, blessed be. And now please turn to your left and face south. Welcome, south, the direction of passion. May your heat live in our hearts as passion for our life ahead. As we release our children to explore their passion, may we feel the transformative power of your fire so that we are changed forever. May the bright energy of the sun illumine all that we do today and forevermore. May we be surprised. May we laugh. Let your fire ignite our spirits. Thank you, South. Blessed be. And turn to your left again and face east. Welcome, east, the direction of new beginnings. We are open to your inspiration today. As we release our children to their right and perfect expression, when the time feels right, we open ourselves to a new beginning, a new chapter in our life. We welcome new ideas, new thoughts, unlimited possibilities for our future, new ways of nurturing and parenting ourselves, new ways to spend our time. Thank you, East. Blessed be. And finally, please turn back to face the stage and face north. Welcome, north, the direction of the ancestors. Wherever they go, We give our children into the unseen care of the ancestors. Go with them, grandmothers. Protect them, grandfathers. And when it is our time, in many years, welcome us all into your embrace. Thank you, North. Blessed be. And now, please repeat after me. Spirit, I feel your presence as I make this transition. And I know that I am safe and loved and whole, just as my child is. I let go of my old identity, and I embrace this new chapter in my life. I resolve to live my life with joy, passion, and curiosity about what comes next. I let go of fear. I let go of doubt. I let go of worry. I let go of the idea that something has gone wrong. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. And so it is. I bless you, and I bless this transition. We are released and transformed. And so it is.